Welcome back to Squirrel Shop. Today we're doing a fork refresh on a 2002 gsxr750. So this will be applicable from 2001 to 2003 on both the 600 and the 750, I believe. Double check me on that, but I'm pretty certain that's correct. So we're going to do the typical accelerated video here, run through the tools you're going to need, some different tool options that you can use instead, and do a breakdown and a rebuild refresh video for you here. So let's get started. So here's our complete fork that we're going to start on. And so first order of business is we are going to go over the tools that you need. 22 millimeter socket, that will be for your preload. You're going to need a flat blade for your rebound settings. You're going to need a 32 millimeter socket for the actual fork cap itself. You're going to need two 17 millimeter wrenches. I do not recommend anything that you do on forks to use an adjustable wrench. Not a good idea. You're going to need there's workarounds for this, but man, these are cheap. Harbor Freight or whatever, get you these. They're basically a plastic pry bar. They're a fiber reinforced pry bar, so it's going to be scratch free for you. A pick of some kind. You'll see when we get there. You could use a flat blade screwdriver, but all of these tools that are a little bit fancier are cheap, easy to get a hold of, and they're going to help you not scratch and damage parts of this fork. You're going to need a fork seal driver tool. That's these two pieces here. There's workarounds for that. I won't go into that. I mean, you can use PVC, I guess. Fork seal bullet. So another thing that you can use instead of this is a plastic bag. Use the corner of a plastic bag and cut it, and it will protect your raw edges from, well, it will protect the seals from the raw edges. You're going to need a bleeder tool, or you can use a long zip tie. Let's see here. You're also going to need an oil level setting tool. Motion Pro makes these, not terribly expensive. Yeah, so we'll get into it. All right, first order of business is we're going to grab this 22 millimeter and we're going to take out all the preload here on this fork. You could do this before you take off the forks off the bike. That would make sense. So we're backing out all the preload. It's just going to make it easier for us to disassemble. And then the rebound, we're going to back that out all the way counterclockwise as well until it stops. And now we're going to take our 32 millimeter and break this fork cap loose. All right. Now we're going to put this in our fork compressor. Everybody asks me where I got this. I made it. Racetech makes one kind of similar. You could buy, yeah, you can buy a handheld device. In fact, let me show you that real quick. Okay, so if you want to do it by hand, you'll need something like this. So you'll have somebody hold the fork and then hold this H piece. You'll screw these in to this part here, and you'll press down. When you expose the nut, your buddy will stick the H piece in under that and allow you to access everything. Okay, so back to this. This just does the job of two people. If you do a lot of forks, definitely a worthwhile investment. If you don't, you can build something or figure out a way or buy that other piece I showed you. So we're going to expose the donut here. Alright, so now that we have that setting there on that side, we're going to take our two 17 millimeter and we're going to break this loose. Spin this fork cap off. Set that to the side. Let me move these tools here. We're going to pull our dampening rod out. Set that to the side. And then we're going to back off compression on this so we can remove the rest of the parts here. All right. We got this top piece, kind of a buffer, and then your metal washer, your spacer here, and the spring's going to come out. Set that off to the side here, and then we're going to pull this out of my fork compressor tool, and we're going to drain it. Hang that up there to drain. Okay, so now that we've got this drained, we're going to take, so I've cut a lip into this, but you can buy a number of these that have flat parts here. And I'm just going to take and pop that in here and pry up, so we don't scratch this lip here. Okay, now I'm going to reach in here to this circlip. I'll find the end of it, and I'm going to use my pick to pop that up and hook it. And I'm trying to stay, see how I'm using the round part, so I'm staying off the part of the fork. If you use a flat blade for that, you're likely to get against here, possibly scratch that. So I'm going to bring this all the way up to the top and then spread it out, pull it off so that I do not scratch the fork. You're going to hear me talk a lot about keeping off of the fork. And then we're using the inner fork as basically a slide hammer to drive out our bushings. Okay, so got 3 parts here that are coming off. Once again, using our scratch free, I'm going to pry that open, pop it off. We always want to inspect our bushings. I don't know how well you can see that, but we're about down to the metal in here. Most of the Teflon coating on the inside has worn off, so it's time to replace our bushings on this fork. Then your outer bushing slides right off, same thing. Your thinner bushing, the top one that holds everything on, you're going to see wear on the inside, not on the outside. On this bushing, you're going to see wear on the outside, not on the inside. Again, this one needs replaced. Set that to the side. Then the basically seal washer, set that to the side. And all of this stuff is going to come off and get discarded. Alright, we're going to hang that back up, let it drain as thoroughly as possible. We're going to continue on to the fork. Alright, we are ready to start reassembling. Another thing I forgot to mention is you're going to want a little bit of grease, because you're going to grease everything as it goes back on. So first thing we're going to do, we've drained and we've cleaned everything. Remember, cleanliness is key for this. So we're going to constantly be cleaning and re-cleaning all of our parts as we put them together. So I'm going to put my fork bullet on the top here. It covers those holes, covers everything nicely. This bleed hole is nicely chamfered. I'm not worried about that one scratching, but a lot of times if the bleed holes are exposed, if they're not chamfered and smooth, I'll put a piece of electrical tape around them. Again, you can use the corner of a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag, Walmart bag, anything that you can slip over the top here that will allow you to slide your seals on. So I'm using a premium SKF fork seal. That's what I prefer. We're going to start with the dust seal, they call it, or the wipe. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of grease. Just a tiny layer here on the inside, just enough to kind of slick it up. We're going to pop that over and make sure that you put it this direction down toward the fork. It should be kind of obvious, but just in case it's not. Okay, same thing with the fork seal. We're going to grease the inner and the outer part of the fork seal on this. Again, we're just going for a thin layer here, because all we want to do is kind of lube it up. So hopefully you can see the difference on this fork seal. This goes toward the fluid, this goes toward the foot of, or the boot of the fork down here. So we're going to put that on. Now we're going to remove our fork bullet. Done with that. These particular seals come with a little spacer. I'll put that spacer on first. And then we are going to put our seal washer on. Now the seal washer has a square edge and a round edge. Square edge goes toward the seal. Drop that on. Drop our wider bushing on. Drop our thicker but narrower bushing till it snaps. Okay, we are ready for reassembly into the outer fork. Alright, so here we go. So now I'm going to press my seal down into this channel. Sometimes these go pretty easily all on their own. Put this around it. Actually need to raise this fork up a little bit more. And use my seal driver. Make sure that seal is set all the way down. We just need to drive it past the inner groove so we can put our retaining clip back on. So there's this retaining clip, same procedure as before. I'm going to start toward the top so I can minimize the risk of scratches. And I'm going to pop it in place. Make sure it's seated firmly, pops all the way in. Slide my wipe down, press it in place. Very rarely should you have to use any kind of driver for this, but every once in a while you'll run into a tight dust seal. Now we're going to fully compress the fork and put it back in my stand for filling and measuring. Alright, I'm going to put my dampening rod bleeder. I'm going to screw it on here. If you don't have this, you have to reach in there with a pair of needle nose pliers and put a zip tie, a long zip tie around the bottom of this so that it'll stick out, because that's going to want to fall down, and you'll see later why that's important. Alright, now we're going to fill it up with fork oil. It is 10 weight fork oil is what they call for OEM. Now there's various weights of fork oil you could use for various applications, if you're trying to change the feel a little bit or based on your weight. But if you need to know what OEM specs are, it's 10 weight. Alright, so now that we've filled it, we're going to pump it up and down. General rule of thumb is 20 times. Alright, now that we've pumped it up, we're going to set the level. You need to set the level for these particular forks at 110 millimeters. So we're going to slide this over, make it flush. Remember, it's imperative that their fork is fully compressed here at the bottom. Now we're just going to suck fluid out until it stops sucking. we drop in our fork spring. Now our spacer and the top bushing and the washer there. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up because sometimes there's not a lot of space. So the sooner you pull it up, the less likely are you to have binding issues. And then compress. Okay, now we've got plenty of room to reinstall everything. We're going to drop the dampening rod back down. Make sure that this nut is backed off all the way. Okay, so important detail. We backed this off all the way. On this particular set of forks, we need to go in 3 full turns to set the correct starting height for your rebound. 1, 2, 3 full turns. We're going to screw this on until it stops. So that's going to set the amount of travel that rod can travel. It'll make it the same on both, and it'll make your specifications, whatever you're returning to, correct. Okay, so you can see it stopped, so we're going to spin this nut back up to it. Our 17 millimeters again. We're going to tighten them up. And we're going to back this off a tiny bit just so it's not bound up. And now we can release compression or preload, whatever you want to call it, on this spring here and reassemble everything. Screw these out, and now we are ready to extend the fork. Reset this cap, and now we can set our rebound and our preload. So in this particular case, I'm going 1 turn out. You should go whatever settings that you have discovered work well for you, and reset them to that, or reset them to factory specifications, whatever you want to do. Alright, we'll go clean this up, and that is a completed fork refresh. Hope this helps you guys. Have a good day.